This is from Air and Space Forces magazine. A new Normandy memorial honors the 8th Air Force Airmen crucial to D-Day victory. Did you guys ever end up watching what was the series on Apple?
Yeah, the bomber units.
Yeah, what was it
That
called?
one was, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it was great. I
have to look
I
it
can't
up.
remember what it
Masters
was.
of the Air.
Masters of the Air. That's it. Masters of the Air.
That was really good.
So this is pretty cool. And they have the life-size. I'll show you a picture here in a second. For nearly a century, the Normandy battlefield has been a place to honor the brave soldiers who stormed Fortress Europe on June 6, 1944. But in all those years, nothing has stood to memorialize the airmen of the 8th Air Force. I wonder if that's a harbinger of a draft selection later. Airmen of the 8th Air Force who were charged with destroying the German Luftwaffe to clear the way for the invasion force until now. A new 8th Air Force memorial tucked behind the D-Day landing beaches immortalizes those airmen in bronze 81 years after they defeated the Nazi Air Force, suffering tens of thousands of combat deaths along the way. All right, this picture here is from behind, but it's a really good picture. So it's 4 figures like they're walking out to the flight line.
I think that is cool, man.
They didn't have a great one in the front, so I went to another website and I got who they're doing this. So I'll leave that up there and explain how this was made. A little background first. As Allied forces planned Operation Overlord in late 1943, U.S. airmen took on a no-fail mission, Operation Point Blank. It sought to take control of Nazi airspace as well as to weaken Germany's fighter fleet and its manufacturing base to give D-Day a better chance of success. So basically, for the last 2 years, this Operation Point Blank was first, it was all about the bombing, and then the fighters came in. So this wasn't just like a 5-day operation. This was the whole goal of the 8th Air Force, was this Operation Point Blank. The air war shifted in the Allies' favor in late February 44 when the 8th, along with the newly activated 15th Air Force and the Royal Air Force, renewed its deep strike raids into Germany, later known as Big Week. By then, the Allies had enough long-range P-51 fighter aircraft to accompany heavy bombers all the way to their objectives. Can you imagine the Nazi pilots going up and they're like, okay, these guys are all unprotected again. And now all of a sudden, you got 20, 25 P-51s with them, and like,
yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Operation Point Blank strategy changed when Major General James Jimmy Doolittle took command of the 8th that January. In early 44, Doolittle ordered his fighter aircraft to go on offensive against the Luftwaffe fighter force. Doolittle's new standing order for fighter pilots: your job is not to escort the bombers. Your job is to kill the Luftwaffe.
That's awesome.
8th Air Force fighter formations began to hunt down German fighters, destroying them in the air and on the ground. A vicious air battle ensued over the skies of Germany, inflicting heavy losses on the Luftwaffe. You don't hear much. Most of you hear about the bombing campaign.
Yeah.
And you always wonder, it's like, where did they go? Once we landed on Normandy, it's like, where was their air power? It kind of wasn't around anymore. This is why.
Yeah.
As organizers looked to capture that history, they quickly decided the memorial needed to represent the people that made up the 8th Air Force: a commander, a fighter pilot, a bomber pilot, and a gunner. So they're all different roles in those 4 standing there.
That's cool.
After some debate, the memorial would feature 4 life-size statues of Doolittle, Colonel Don Blakesley, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Rosie Rosenthal, and Sergeant Maynard Snuffy Smith. I've got a kind of a generic picture here, almost like a planning photograph of what they made. So they have a gunner, a bomber, a fighter pilot, and the commander Doolittle.
That's cool.
Let's see. They picked Doolittle. That was T. Michael Buzz Mosley, a former Air Force Chief of Staff who helped bring the memorial to fruition, said, "We picked Doolittle. That was easy. He was a commander. For the fighter pilot, it was Colonel Don Blakesley. He flew more combat in World War II than anybody. Blakesley's 4th Fighter Group killed over 1,000 German planes."
Wow. See, you never hear anything. I've never heard of that.
I
cool.
know. Lieutenant Colonel Rosenthal was selected as the bomber pilot. The lawyer turned aviator was shot down twice. Remember how it was 25 missions and you could go home? This guy was shot down twice over 52 combat missions.
Wow.
And later served as an assistant to the U.S. prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials. Sergeant Smith was chosen to represent the airmen who manned the bomber's multiple machine guns. He was a ball gunner on a B-17 Flying Fortress. Smith became the first enlisted airman in the U.S. Army Air Forces to receive the Medal of Honor for valor in World War II. I should have looked that up. I'll look it up before the next one because I'd like to know
what's ridiculous is we always use that Sergeant Snuffy as a kind of
Snuffy.
a derogatory term.
Yes, and that was his nickname.
I never understood why, because I was like, this guy is all badass.
Snuffy was a
Why
badass. He won the Medal of
trashing
Honor
on him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew about him. We'd heard him through him,
Yeah.
your PME classes and stuff, Maynard Smith.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
So
The statue. And then Dulo. The statues themselves also. This is kind of cool too. The statues themselves also contain pieces of B-17 and P-51 aircraft that were donated by collectors.
oh yeah.
Inside Doolittle is a piece of a P-51 and a B-17. Inside Rosenthal and Smith, there are pieces of a B-17, and inside Blakesley is a piece of a P-51.
That's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
Right?
That's cool.
I like that.
Past and present converged at the June 5th dedication ceremony in Normandy as current Air Force officials and Doolittle's relatives for the statue's unveiling. So
I would have liked to
pretty
have been
cool.
there for that. That would have been awesome.
Oh God, yeah.
That'd have been awesome.
And this is I didn't get a better one because they took it from the back, and the front one it was just like their faces in a line. But again, like the Korean memorial that we've mentioned on here before, life-size statues, kind of neat to walk among those, and then they put them on at Normandy, so that's pretty neat.
That's way cool.
We need a late for changeover tour of this.
No doubt.
I agree.
Can you guys cover the cost
page
for that?
to donate? Donations are accepted on our Patreon.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we definitely need to go look at that.
Eric, if
Send
you
all
could
these
get-
three crusty bastards to look at this cool statue in Normandy.
Well, and until we do that, right? If you crowdfund us to go over there, we
Exactly.
promise we'll podcast from there.
Yep.
That's a
Take good pictures.
guarantee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as a bonus, we'll get Eric some bronze body paint,
Oh,
and you go over to his OnlyFans, and you
that's
can
the
see him
OnlyFans account.
recreate each one of those poses. So,
I wear my beret.
and that's
Oh,
it.
man.
Maybe your Mae West, your life preserver. But
Yeah.
that's it. So if that's not worth funding, I don't know what is.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Please give. Please give.
Yeah, please give.